Well, hello everyone. Professor Oleander here. And I know it's been a little bit. Some things happened. I got sick. Had to work a lot of hours covering the shifts for somebody at work. So that's why there hasn't been a video in the past couple of weeks. And I'm dropping stuff. I have kind of been going back and forth over what I wanted to do next. Whether it was going to be another tutorial. I was trying to figure out what, as far as tutorials, I wanted to do, and I wanted to do one on locals, but I've kind of already done one on locals. I wanted to do one on building trains, which I don't think I've really done that one. But I figured I might try and combine all that into one long video. So for the first part, it's going to be, we're going to take this train here, which is, oh, get over here, there we go. This is L-CAL0611. Take this one, run it up to boron, and then in the next video, do the switching with it. So this one's more going to be train handling. And if the locomotive looks different, if it sounds different, if the game itself looks different, it is because I am running some skin packs. Well, packs. I'm running some modified repaints. And I've got several locomotives that have been repainted. These are the BNSF units. I've actually got, you can wander over here and look at some more. These are some of the Dash 9s. Some of the trucks have been redone. I've actually got a new placeholder for the, what do you want to call it? Well, I've got new for the placeholder Dash 9s if you don't have the pack. I did buy one of the Dash 9 packs. I don't have the other one. I don't know if I'm going to get it. $20 to me is kind of a lot for paints, but these are KCS reskins for the, I think these are the Run 8 units. No, these are the other BNSF units that I don't have. So there's that, and I'm trying to think, I don't have any of the other locomotives out here. You'll probably see some at some point. The other thing that I am running is, if the game itself looks different, it's because I'm running reshade. And let me look at the locomotives, that way you can see it. So this is with reshade, this is without reshade. So with it, without. So that's kind of why the game looks differently. I've also got a ground texture pack, or a ground texture file that somebody did. Some of the cars have been redone. It'd probably be easier to see it like this. I know some of them do. I can't remember which ones that I've done. I've put so many in here now. But some of the cars have got graffiti on them now. Some of them have been weathered. The default placeholder one, like the Run 8 box car, that's been redone. The placeholder for it's been redone, so you might see it. I'm also running a modified sound pack, which the sound bank file. So the atmospheric stuff is different. Also the EOT generator is different. Some of the wheel sounds are different. The slack sounds are different. I think that's a modified one. I'm trying to think what else. The skin packs that I'm using, they actually have some modified MRAO files that have these reflective stripes on them. They're more high visibility. It's a lot more noticeable. They upped them a little bit, so it's like looking at the actual reflective stuff. And the other thing that you may notice is the idle sound of this locomotive is a lot different. I have new files for actually all the locomotives that are in the game, the SD70s, the S4400s, the Dash 9s, and the SD40s, which is also the GP40s. They all use the 645s. So, yeah, actually, I'll start up this Dash 9 here so you can hear it. Oh, let me relinquish this one train. I really never did sound packs, but I made an exception for this because I've become a little bit of an audiophile whenever it comes to playing this game, because the Run 8 sounds have always, to me, been not lacking, but they've been quiet. And I found out that it has something to do with the way that Run 8 filters audio. Kind of cleans it up, it mutes it down a little bit. So here's the Dash 8 or Dash 9 starting. These are arguably the loudest out of all the locomotives that I have. The 4400s actually get pretty loud. They thump pretty hard whenever they start working, but the idle sound is a little on the quiet side as far as I'm concerned. So like I said, we will take this train here and we're gonna run it up to Boron, and then we'll do that in this video, and then we'll switch it out in the next one. So let me go ahead, and I've got everything all squared away, so I think we'll go ahead and plan on running this train out of here. I'm going to go ahead and set up. It does have a set on it, so we're going to leave that alone, knock the handbrake off, and we'll turn the dispatcher. He's on 32 and 13. So we'll make a tutorial out of this. Tone up the dispatcher channel 32, and it'll change. And in DTMF 13, and we should get a little pop-up here saying what you want. And I want to request a yard departure, and I'll just kind of look out here and see. Sometimes it takes him a minute because he's going to go through and check and see what all kind of stuff we got to have. Plus I'm running a symbol that he may not understand, which is it can be one of the problems with auto, is that sometimes if you get signals that the dispatcher, oh, there he goes. Sometimes you get tags that the AI doesn't quite understand. So we got lucky this time. I am going to put, since we don't have any DPUs, we're 5,500 feet long, 3.1 HPT, and I have my map pulled up. It should take us about 40 minutes to get there if everything works all right. We're only 2,900 tons. It's relatively flat going the way that we're going, so I'm not too worried about it. So I'm gonna go ahead and open the windows up, and I'm gonna get over to the other side. This is one of the problems that I have ever since they did this stuff, is I can't open the window on this side from over there, so I have to come over here and do it. And just do that and get back into the seat. Alright, we have a good switch, a good signal, And I'm going to go ahead and pull up this just so I can remember, because it's been a while since I've done this. And we're going to pretend class 1's already been done. These do not have headlight indicators, so I kind of have to remember to hit that. With the SD70s, they have a headlamp indicator on the screen. Let's see the attendant call. Yeah, the attendant call is the lights for that. Not worried about that. Not worried. We probably ought to turn the step lights on. And I think that's everything. Okay, brakes off. Somebody is actually working on a new sound pack for the air brakes, and I listened to it today and it actually sounds really good. He's also working on a sound pack for the alerter. Like I said, Run 8 sounds, they're not bad. They just don't have the oomph that they should really have. Alright, train lines recharged, flows down below 60, throw the reverser into forward, 2 on the horn, ding-a-ding. Well, we'll ring the bell until we get out of the yard. Wait for it to load, because like all good GEs, it takes forever. I don't need that screen on anymore. I would rather have that screen. I think I have... what have I got? What was I looking for? Is it train? Yeah, locomotive failure chance. All the way to the right, so God knows what we're going to run into. Alright, ease off on the brakes. And I'll do this the way that I would do it in real life. I always look down at the ground. There we go. And wait for the EOT. Must have loads right up against us. There we go. I mean, this is a light train. I could probably snatch it pretty hard and we wouldn't hurt anything. There's the OT. Alright, enough ding-a-ling. Oh, the ding-a-ling, the ding-a-ling. So yeah, it has been a couple weeks. We had a guy that's been out. So I had a schedule. I had already worked my schedule. Then I got called in. I was supposed to work with him for 4 nights. He was only there for 2. And then he had to go out. He's been out for like 3 weeks now, so I had to cover all his shifts, and then I had to come in and work some extras, and then I was already scheduled to cover 2 other shifts for 2 other guys. And then I had worked my nights, and then I came in that morning, went to sleep, got a phone call at wait a minute, I'm trying to think here. How did that go down? I was on my day off. I got off work. I got called at like noon, and then had to come right back in. I was supposed to be off and then do that, and then I had to swap to the very next day. So he called me at like noon, and he's like, "Can you be here at 6 in the morning?" And so I went from working nights. I got like exactly 24 hours, and then I had to come right back in and work that. And that went on for about 2 weeks. I had like 30 some hours worth of overtime. And then this past week he's also been out. So I got more overtime on top of that. I've actually got to go into work tomorrow. But it's all good. I mean, it was a crowd of overtime, and I actually got paid for it, so that was a plus. But I ended up getting sick. I was off for a week, just the way the schedule worked out, and then I got sick that week. And so I wasn't able to do anything because I was going to record videos that week, and I didn't feel like doing nothing. And then, the last night that I was supposed to work, my last night that I was working, and then I was going to be off for like 7 days, we had this big deal happen. It wasn't nothing I did. It was just something that just happened, and it was pretty bad. But there was nothing I could do. I had to call some guys in just because we had to try and help remedy the situation, and there was really nothing that any of us could do, and it sucked so bad. And then I was at work the other day, and they had another problem. Same deal. And then we finally recovered from that. And then, was it yesterday? No, it was the day before yesterday. I was at work, and I told the guy that was my relief coming in, I said, you might want to keep an eye on this, because I said, it's not the problem that it was the day before, I don't think. But it's like, I don't think it's the same problem that we had the other day, but I'm not sure. Just kind of keep an eye on it. And then on my way home, I passed a crew that was working. I called him up and I said, hey, I said, yeah. I said, I said, it was what I thought it was. I said, I just passed the crew on the way home, so I'm not going to go into what it's all about just because of what it entails. But like, communication, man. It's communication. Departments got to talk to each other, because a lot of times we were kind of left in the dark about what was going on, then only to find out after the fact. So anyway, that's been my couple weeks. In railroad stuff, I really have not kept up with the stuff that's going on. I did notice that CSX just unveiled their new Conrail unit, and it seems like everybody's kind of split over whether it was a good move or not, or whether they like it, or whether it's the spawn of Satan. And I'm like, they didn't have to do anything. I mean, take it or leave it, I suppose. The joke that I made to a friend of mine was that, hey, it's a Conrail unit, it's going to be broke down within a month anyway, so it doesn't matter. The joke with that being that when the NS did their Conrail unit, it broke a crankshaft like a week out of the shop or something like that. It was an ST70, I think. And yeah, it split its crankshaft, broke it in half or something like that. I can't remember. And it was like, well, that's fitting. That's fitting. All right, getting too fast. Probably got to slow down a little more too. The thing about these GEs, man, as soon as you let off on that throttle, they are like, oh, okay, brake. It's almost like throwing on dynamics. I had the chance to run a B32-8 a few times, and I've actually told somebody this on Discord. I was like, yeah, man, it's like you could not regulate speed with it, because it was always like way too much, or just enough to barely keep you moving. So when you were trying to regulate your speed, you're either getting ready to take off, and it was always between 2 and 3. Just kind of like what you feel right now. It's like 3, it like wants to just paw at the rail and just go like there's no tomorrow, and as soon as you go into 2, it's like, okay, I'm done. And it's the same thing. You see, it's wanting to just take off. And then 2, it's just like, okay, I'm grandpa now. Let me pull my signal rules up just so I have them. I'm doing this on my other monitor because, you know, reasons. So diverging clear. Pretty universal across the railroads. And then there's an approach on the adjacent track. I'll probably do some A-line videos at some point. I actually thought about doing them for this one, but I'm still... This is a different save. This isn't the one that I've been using. That's a whole conversation in itself, and I'll explain it along the way. I basically had the game open for about 6 hours, and I had to play Dispatcher because Otto was losing his mind. And so that's the save that I'm working on right now. There was like 102. There were 102 AI trains running. Barstow was gridlocked, and I'll go into it here directly, but not right this moment. Sorry, I was just reading a message that I just got. So I've got my signal rules up. Mojave map. So we're going to be crossing over onto Hut. We're clear of the yard track. We can go to 30 now. That was why I had the distance counter on. So as soon as I hit that switch coming out of the yard onto the main, I hit the asterisk or the multiply symbol on the number pad. That starts my distance counter. It beeps whenever you hit the distance of your train, and that's how I knew that I was within the speed restriction. Now I cannot go over 30. Actually, that approach wasn't mine. So there's our high ball. We're good for track speed. We can go ahead and give her another one. And I'll be quiet for just a minute so everybody can hear this thing thump thump, actually. I thought we were getting a little fast. I really wish that the devs that run 8 would change the orbital camera so that you can lock the orientation, so that it will just stay in one spot instead of orbiting around, because it's really hard to get, like if you want to chase and take a screenshot or something like that, it's really hard to get the camera where you want it, because it's like every time you zoom in it's going towards the center of the locomotive. They either need to move the point towards the middle of the thing, or you can actually orbit around and up and down and stuff like that. There might be a way to do it. If there is, I haven't found it, and I've looked through the user guide with the key bindings and I couldn't find it. So I can't even remember what we were talking about now. Oh, this version of the the Gevo audio pack has the traction motor whine, and you may have heard it. And that's, I've gotten so used to hearing that. And of course the EMDs that I ran, it wasn't so much a grind as it was a growl. And that is something that I've seen some people talking about, is cab rattle. Every cab that I've ever been in, with the exception of maybe that B32, just about every cab I've ever been in just rattled. I mean, we used to take paper towels, and you'd fold up paper towels, you'd find the rattle and stuff paper towels in there to stop it, because it would drive you up the wall. Because it changed. The harder the engine was working, the more it would, the louder it would get, and the more annoying it would get. So, if you ever get into a locomotive cab, you'll see it. There's like, if you see paper towels stuffed everywhere, it's because the thing rattles like crazy. More juice. So the 32 was the first one. That was the first GE that I ever ran. I always knew that GEs were slow to load, and this was absolutely no exception to it. We learned very quickly that if you had to switch with it, you had to, you did not let it go into idle. Like, you kept it in one. And the reason why you kept it in one was because if you went to idle, the thing like stopped. It was something with the way that they, either the way the traction motors were brushed or something like that, but it was like as soon as you went to idle, it was like it just wanted to slow down. And then when you went back to one, you'd go to one and wait and wait and wait, and it would slowly start to pull itself out of its own way. So when I got to be one of the first ones to move it around, I told the guys, I said, first of all, do not put it into idle. And I said, so you're always power braking with it whenever you're switching. And I said, second, when you're wanting to stop, do not leave it in notch 2. Because these locomotives are weird with how they load. They load slow, but when they load, they just want to go. So what was happening, if you were in notch 2 and you were trying to slow it down with the independent, what would happen was the more resistance you put on it, the harder it wanted to go. So you're sitting there pushing the independent, pushing the independent, pushing the independent, and it's just loading, and you're like, stop, stop, stop. And you didn't want to go to 1, because if you went to 1, then it just wants to just stop. It took forever to get used to that thing. Notch 3, forget about it. The independent would not hold it in notch 3. You could not slow that thing down with the independent in notch 3. But like I said, once you get the nuances of it out of the way, it was actually pretty fun to drive. Or, I'm sorry, run. It's fun to run. It was one of the, like I said, it was the first one I ever ran. GE actually built really good locomotives. If you talk to some of the crews, they probably would prefer the GEs, aside from the slow loading in the beginning. But they probably prefer the newer GEs to anything else. I grew up and learned under EMDs, and of course all the ones that I ran were older, but they were just brutes. I mean, You put them things in notch 1 and they would just dig and go and snort and holler and everything else, and just you put whatever you wanted behind it and it would just go. GE, you had a little bit not more delicate with them, but you had to plan a lot more. EMD was like, okay, you want to pull 100,000 tons? Let's go. Let's get this thing going here. GE was like, wait a minute, no. Let's talk about this. This ain't gonna work. I got to do all the switching. Let's put another locomotive on. I guess that's probably the best way to describe it. Is it GE, because they were electronics company, really. The reason why they load so slow is that they're trying to protect the electronics, so you don't just go in there and flash a traction motor, or for God forbid, flash a main generator, or even worse, burn up the dynamic grid. Which I'm trying to think. There's no downhill where I can really. When we come to a stop, I'll try and use the dynamics so you can hear it. I remember the first time that I put that B32 into dynamics. Oh my God. It had extended range for one. And two, I've told people, I'm like, it's like having a hairdryer on high right behind your head, especially if you had the window open. And it just stayed that way. They have like these enormous fans and all this ductwork and everything else, and they just scream when they are in dynamics. But the grids stay cool. They don't blow out the dynamics all that much. The only problem with GEs, that everybody calls them toasters, because they call them toasters because the things would shoot fire out of the stack. Turbos would go bad in them. I actually made fire shoot out of the stack of one of them because it was cold morning and it did not want to start. I mean, did not want to start. So normally you don't have to mess with the lay shaft on it. So I'm over there trying to get the lay shaft, give it a little bit of fuel, get some smoke, try and let it go. And it would just little, and then all of a sudden fireball comes out of the stack, and then it's a flame, and I'm still holding the start button. I'm like, you better start or this is going to be a mess. And it finally took off, and then the whole time it's like doing this slow roll, belching and everything else. I'm like, oh my God, I've never had this much trouble with an EMD. Which I'll tell you what we used to do with those in a minute. So with the EMDs, we used to keep ether in there. Cans of ether used to stay in the engine room because it would get so cold up there during the winter. I mean, literally, you'd reach over, you'd open up one of the handholds for the airbox. You'd spray about a half a can worth of ether in there, close it back up, and then just go in there, hold the lay shaft all the way, and do not stop. For the love of God, do not stop until it starts. I dare not do that with a GE. That's the difference between a two-stroke and a four-stroke. Two-stroke, you can get away with it. Four-stroke, you probably would launch one of the heads out of it. Now, I'm not saying it wouldn't. I'm not saying somebody hadn't done it. I'm not saying you couldn't do it. I wasn't going to do it because we were leasing the locomotive at the time. It's like, I ain't doing it. But yeah, that engine was a lot of fun. Hearing that -9 pack that I've got in the game now, it reminds me a lot of it. I actually used to like hearing that engine run. It was just the difference between hearing a 4-stroke run and a 2-stroke. 4-stroke, when it would run, like first thing, it would always go into high idle. And some of the SDs would do that too. Like, you'd start it up and it would go into its warm-up cycle, so it would run in high idle for like 10 minutes, or until it got up to, I forget what the temperature set was. What is it? That's 758. So we're getting ready. We're just passing Hinkley. But yeah, it would run, and the thing ran so cool that during the wintertime it took forever to get the thing up to temperature. And that locomotive had a safeguard on it where you could move it, but it would move at reduced power until it got up to operating temperature, which I think it might have been set around 135, 140-ish, somewhere along in there. Because I remember the guys would call me up, and I would tell them, I'm like, you need to crank that locomotive up for a good 2 hours in the morning. And they're like, why we gotta make it that long? I said, because that's how long it takes to get up to temperature. I said, it's got to run for 2 hours before it will move. And I don't think that it would go over 300 amps was the thing with it. So it used to suck in the morning if they would forget to crank it up, which is why I usually was the one that would go out and crank it up before they had to do anything. If they'd forget to crank it up and we had to switch, it took forever. Because you could put the thing in notch 8, but it wouldn't load over 800 or over 300 amps. So if you had a lot of cars to move, forget about it. So I was going to tell you about the dispatching that I had to do yesterday. Let me pull up the dispatcher screen. Oh, I was already there. So yesterday, there were 102 cars. There were 102 AI trains running. And one more. The departure yard was full. Both departure yards were full. I think there were trains in the inspection yard. And Cajon had a stack of trains that were coming this way towards Barstow, and then Needles had a stack of trains that were going towards Barstow. And I think there were some trains here on this stretch that were coming towards Barstow as well. So all of this was red. Like every block nearby was red. Auto, just for whatever reason, decided to let everything out of the yard, let everything out of Barstow. So it had trains that were too long on the inspection track. It had it had trains that were at crossovers. There were 4 trains going in 2 different directions, and they all met at a control point over at crossover points. And they're just kind of sitting there staring at each other. And I remember I was doing something else in the game, and I was like, why are all these trains stopped? And I looked and I was like, oh my god. So I spent probably 6 or 7 hours with the game running and a dispatcher screen up, and I had to delete a couple trains because Auto was having a hard time with some of the symbols. And some of them just, there was nothing else I could do. I had to delete them. So I just sat here and I did like one by one. I had to let these trains go and let this train go and do this and do that. And he's gonna let that one go. Okay. So I had to get, it took like 6 hours to get all this cleared up, because as soon as I cleared out Barstow, then I had to come over here and I had to clear out Needles. I had to clear out up here at Mineola, and then I had to go over to Cajon. I had to clear all this mess out down here. It just took forever. One of the shortfalls of auto is sometimes when there's a lot going on, they don't communicate, or he doesn't plan out very well. I did figure out though that when you're dispatching, when you have like one segment, so I was dispatching Barstow Yermo, the Cajon dispatcher was AI, Mojave was AI, Needles was AI. So they had trains sitting there on the mains. Here, I'll show you. So they had, they had trains sitting in these two sidings, Jim Gray and Hinckley, and I think there might have been one sitting in Boron. Nothing on the track up here coming out of Hinckley. And the same thing over here on Needles. Main 1 and Main 2 were clear, and they had like, I think there were 3 or 4 trains stacked up on Main 1 and 2. And I kept waiting. I was like, the AI is just going to dump all these trains on me. But what they will do is they will actually wait. So if you're the dispatcher for Barstow, even though you've got all your tracks clear, it won't send anything to the signals that are on the extreme of your territory, unless, like, if I had everything clear, they won't send me a train until I put one of these signals to a green. And then they'll say, okay, I can send these trains on. So that's how they, it's actually kind of clever. That's really the only reason that I bring it up. It was some clever programming that the devs put in there so that the AI doesn't overwhelm you. But yeah, man, I sat here for like 7 hours, got all that cleared out. The receiving yard got full. The receiving yard's empty now. I pulled all the power off of it this morning, and then I deleted all the trains because they weren't tagged, and I didn't feel like going through and tagging all the cars. So what I've got now is there are, I think, several of these. Yeah, that's one coming. That one's coming. He's a pass through. He's coming there. And he's coming there. So those 4 trains coming down from Bakersfield, they're all if you want to call them supply trains. They're bringing cars that are already tagged, that are going to get run over the hump, and then they're going to get built into locals. And then I've got a bunch of trains coming up from Needles that are already tagged, that are going to do the same thing, run them through and then do the locals and fill the yard back out. This has been a busy couple days. I was off yesterday and I'm off today. I got to work tomorrow, and then I'm off Monday. So probably going to try and, I probably got a little bit of time before I got to go to bed before work. So I'll do this one, and then I'll go ahead and switch this train out. And then we'll call that the switching tutorial. What we got? I also have a detector voice pack too, so you'll get to hear that here in just a second. I really like the way that this sounds. I'll tell you in a second where this pack came from.
ENFF detector, milepost 766.0.
This one's going to read back to us as soon as we're over it. This pack came from Diverging Clear Studios, and they're actually getting ready to make a pack for the SD70s and a pack for all the 40s. But I've already picked them up. I'm in the Discord, and I cannot remember the name. I think it's Run 8 Enhancements. It's the name of the Discord. You can go on there. They have paints, sounds, and I can't even remember else. They got a bunch of audio files on there. That's where these detectors came from. It was from that Discord. And there's other projects that people are working on. Somebody's done. They did the Chessie. The CSX Chessie unit has been done. The Seaboard unit is in progress, and now that the Conrail unit is out, somebody has already started working on that one. But there's basically reskins for just about all the locomotives. Not so much the SD40s because there's so many of them. But
ENFF detector, milepost 766.0. No defects. Repeat, no defects. Total axle 388. Train speed 51 mph. Temperature 99 degrees out.
okay, we made it through without a problem because I was kind of worried. That's one of the reasons why I have the locomotive monitor up, because I'm keeping an eye on the traction motor temperatures. Even though we're not a heavy train, I have to go back and look, but there is a way to cut out your traction motors. And while I'm thinking about it, you can't do it from here, but there is a key command. I'll have to look it up. Yeah. So one of the packs that I mentioned earlier was the alerter. The guy is doing the 5-stage alerter, so now I think it's 3, so it blinks, then it alarms a little faster, and then it dumps. His is 5, so it's a silent, then it starts beeping, and it beeps louder, with like a bell, and then it dumps. And he's almost done with it. I expect within the next week or so he'll have it out. Let's see. That is the thing that I've been missing, that this game has been missing, is I went to Notch 8. Is it's been missing good sounds. The 44s that are in the stock game are okay, but this is, I mean, they thump, and that's what this does. It thumps. I think I've got the C6 modifier. Yeah, I got it all the way. It doesn't feel like it either. I don't even see hardly any rock back and forth. If anybody's interested, I may put the settings file down in the description. Oops. Just in case anybody's interested. But this is basically the stuff that I'm using in Reshade. Every now and then I'll throw on that, and basically that's just like if I'm taking screenshots or something like that, all that is it just blurs the background. It makes the pictures look more real. I'll turn that off for now. So we should be getting close to Jim Gray. Or have we already passed into Jim Gray? Nope, we're getting ready to. What milepost are we at? I can't see the plate. This must be 7. This is... No, we just passed the defect detector, so this should be 765. Nope, 769. Okay, so the next one is going to be Jim Gray. And then we have... Let's see, that's at 772. So we've got 4, 6, 9, 11 miles. So we're about more or less 15 minutes away. Oh man. And surprisingly, we're not having anything out of the ordinary. I have noticed that since they've done some updates over the past year, like you can get EOT errors. I've gotten those a lot. And it actually happened the other day when I was doing a test down Cajon, because that was another video I was going to make, was one specifically talking about dynamic braking. And I think they have tweaked dynamics a little bit, because it's like it was weird. You had to be like on top of it. I remember Cajon didn't used to be that difficult, but it feels like some stuff's been tweaked. I don't know if they tweaked the physics or if they just tweaked dynamics themselves, and it may have been the engines that I was running too. But it was like you had to stay on top of it. There was no margin for error. Like you had to leave your brakes set just so. And you could not get too fast starting out. Like you had to be under 10, because the second that it started climbing up, whenever you were on the hill, that was the end of it. There was no stopping it. I don't tend to build them prototypically. I actually put more power on them because, you know, how many derailments do you want to have on Cajon? That could be fatal before you realize, throw another locomotive on it. How much is it actually costing you to run another locomotive? And when I do that, tutorial down Cajon, I'll talk about the big derailment that happened there. The first one, anyway, where it was just, they got set up for failure from the very beginning. It was just like they didn't have all the locomotives that should have had working dynamics did not have working dynamics, and then poor communication. They had a man helper on the rear. He did what he thought was a good thing, and he put the train into emergency. Well, back then, you put a train into emergency, you lost your dynamics, and then they just lost all control of the train. It was bad. All right, Jim Gray. That is milepost 772, and we have to go to 783. So we got about 10 to go. Up over the hill. I don't think we're going to need to use the dynamics, but we'll see. Kind of looking at the terrain. This is the one thing that I like about this game. Well, one of many things that I like about this game over Train Simulator. Is you look out here, you can see that sag. You can see every hill, and it's a smooth transition into them. I mean, you can tell when you're going up and when you're going down, and you can see out ahead of you what you're getting ready to do. Like I can see that I'm gonna have to start slowing down, and I'm actually gonna go ahead and start the counter. We get to about 2,000 or so, it's going to start picking up speed, because half the train's going to be downhill with me. I don't have a DPU, so it's just all kind of doing its thing. But in Train Simulator, the grade transitions are like, they're hard. It's like you hit it and then it's like bump, and then you go to the next one and it's like bump. And if you actually have the little F3 menu up, or the F4 one where you can see the track down below you, every time that it does like that little bump raise, it's not a solid line, it's like a segmented line that stacks on top of itself. It's what it looks like in the locomotive. It's just like don't. And that's just because they're only running the thing on ancient architecture that's like 20 or 30 years old now. And I'm sure that they've upgraded some stuff, but I just remember it used to annoy me that they were repackaging that thing and they weren't hardly doing anything. You know what I mean? It was like doing bare bones to say, oh yeah, we gave you some new stuff. We gave you a photo mode that nobody asked for. Really, that's not any better than what you had before the game. Here, we want $40 for that. Which is why I haven't done the... that's why I haven't done the video on the Challenger. Because I haven't bought it, for one. Even though I want to. The reason why I haven't bought it is because I just don't want to give Dovetail any more money. As much as I love Smokebox and what they've built for the game, I just don't like Dovetail. And I just don't want to give them any money. You know, I've got the big boy, and I was going to sit down and do that video Monday, but I don't think I'm going to have time now. I'll try, but I know I've got another week coming up where I'm going to be off. It's in like, let's see, I worked days this past week. I worked nights this week, and I've got a week. I've got one more week of days, and then I'll have I have a week off after that. Probably will do it. The scenario that I actually made for it was the NS Coal District, and instead of hauling empties up to the mine, I've got like a 100-car coal train that's loaded that's going to the mine, and it's basically double-headed with two big boys. And something that I have noticed is the firemen in the Smokebox engines do not like me, or they're not used to being that aggressive. They're more like company men. They're like, well, the smoke has to be just so, and I'm like, no. We run train. We don't care about smoke. All I want, pressure and heat. Or pressure and water. That's all I care about. I don't care what comes out of the stack. You keep the pressure pegged, keep the glass, running about 3/4, and we just go. And the firemen are not used to, I guess it would be kind of hard to program it, but it's like, I can fire for me and not be pitch black coming out of the stack. But whenever I try the AI fireman, he cannot keep up. Just cannot keep up. Like, it's down to 260 and can't recover. But when I fire, I can get it down to about 280 and then pick it right back up. So that one's been a little fun, because I didn't know if I was going to be able to do it or not, pulling double duty. Because now what I end up doing is, the last time I ran it as a test to see if it would make it all the way, was I would actually run from the fireman's seat, so that way I could adjust the fireman controls. Because 90% of the time with the engineer, you had to I mean, it was basically wide open. You just adjusted the reverser. So that's way that I had been running it for the most part. And I'll try and do it. It's a long. I'm not going to probably go all the way because I think it takes like 3 or 4 hours to get there. And before someone asks, pretty sure I got that horn from Run 8 Enhancements as well. And let me see if I can find it. Which one? It's MBTA 2027's this one right here. It's a raised letter KL5A. What was I talking about? Oh, it takes about 4 hours for me to run that whole route, and that's another problem that I have with Train Sim is the routes do not scale very well. And the reason why I say that is if you look at some of the speed zones that they have set up, it's like you have a speed zone that's barely a train length long. And just as soon as you get up to speed, it's like, oh, I gotta slow down. Like, I've looked at it on the little display, and it's like you see this stack of speed restrictions, and I'm like, this makes no sense. Like, it'll have a 70, and then not even a mile later, it's like, you gotta get back down to 30. I'm like, what is this garbage? And another game that has that too is Derail Valley. That one has some weird places where it's like, yeah, you can run 100 kilometers an hour, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you gotta get back down to 50. Somebody's having a bad day. Which is another game I guess I should make a video on, is Derail Valley, now that they've got now that it's a quote-unquote simulator now. I have played it. It's an interesting game. You can blow stuff up in it now, which that's been a little bit of fun, but some of it is kind of questionable. But it's a different. So. Do I really want to go down this road with this right now? Where are we at? What is it? That should be 780. Yeah, 780. We only got 2 miles to go. Alright, so I need to go ahead and... who do I need to call? 3213. Let me blow this for this crossing. Alright, give me the next siding. I need to request the next siding. Yep, there's my signal. He is Johnny on the spot today. Guess he's worried I'm gonna fire him after that little episode the other day, or yesterday actually. Double yellow, approach medium, proceed prepared to pass next signal not exceeding 40 miles per hour and be prepared to enter diverging route at prescribed speed. 781.1. Approach medium. Let's see, 781. That's going to be a diverging approach. Where are you at? There you are. No, not that one. That one. There we go. So just looking up here ahead of me, diverging approach, proceed on diverging route, not exceeding prescribed speed through turnout, approach next signal, prepared to stop. Rains exceeding 30 mile per hour, immediately reduced to that speed. We're already slowing down. Let's see, what is the turnout speed? 30 mile an hour. Just go ahead and let it go on here. Boron is on a little bit of a downhill, so as soon as we go into the siding, we're going to be heading downhill. And then I have to run around this thing. So for the switching, the cars are down in there. I don't know that they're ready. I can actually pull it up here and see. We're 0611. Okay, yeah, some of them have got 27 hours, some of them have got 3. Most of them have got 3. I'm probably going to cheat this a little bit. Not right now, but before I do the local, I want to go ahead and do it. I'll go ahead and have that set up because I'm bringing in empties and I'm taking out loads. So I've got to go in. I'm just kind of looking here. I have to go in, drop the cars. Oh, wait a second. I have to go into the siding, stop, and then I have to bring out the switcher to pull the... I have to get around my train, basically. So we have to stop in between the 2 switches here. You'll see it here in just a second. There's 2 switches in the boron. There's 3 tracks there in the siding. And I have to stop in between the switches between track 1 and track 2. You're going to get to hear the dynamics. Let me get to idle for a second. There's different slack action too. I don't know if you heard that. There they come on. Okay. So you can just barely see it. There's a switch right here, and then there's another switch right up there. There's 8,400 feet in between them. And I have to park my train in between those 2 switches because I have to run the locomotives around it. Oh, other way. I don't want to get down too much. Don't want to kill all the speed. Keep it about 25 or so. But you hear what I'm talking about? It sounds like a hairdryer right behind your head. The minute I put this pack in and I heard that, I was like, that is what that sounds like. And you'll hear it in the next video. The SD40s are like, it'll make you cry because it's like they have the fuel pump running when you're going back there to prime the engine, and they will rattle your teeth, which is what I look for in sound packs like that. Okay, so we want to go ahead and start easing on down here. We get over this frog, I'm going to start the counter. So we'll check from the fouling point, which is about right here. And then we want to go basically the length of our train, maybe a little bit extra. We've got about 3,000 feet worth of room between where we're going to stop and the other end. And I need a little bit of room because I'm going to have to bring... You'll see it in the video, and I haven't really thought about how I'm going to do it. But I got to get the cars built, put them over somewhere, and then I have to get these cars down in there. So I'm going to be doing some switching with the 40s and then with the 4400s. So we're about a quarter of a way to our stop here. And my map is saying 8400, but I don't think that's how long it is. Regardless, I have to get the train into the siding. So yeah, we're going to be longer than that. Apparently it's saying that the whole siding is 8,400 feet long. And if that is the case, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to break the train down in half. Alright, we're a little over halfway now. And really, I don't think this map is right. It'll stand on its nose if you let it. Alright, and that is a yes, stop. Alright, let's do this here. Before I go, put you back in idle, reverser in neutral, and just so we can say we did it, generator field down. Alright, let's go back here and look. Oh yeah, the locals are gonna love us. I guess this siding is 8,400 feet long. So I'm gonna... will we fit? I don't think we will. I'll have to cut the train in half. That's gonna suck. So probably when we start the next video, just so you know what I'm doing before anybody cries foul and say, why didn't you do it? I'm doing this to save a little bit of time. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring this train up. If I'd known this, I would have asked for the next signal and then just brought the train in down this track and then cut it off and then sawed by it. It's alright. I'll get authority to run. Well, I need more room than this block, but I'll get mainline authority to run between these two blocks here. Or I'll just give it to myself. But basically what I'm going to do is I'll bring the train up and I'm going to clear over this cross. I'm going to clear this switch. So the tail of the train is going to be sitting somewhere about right there. Yeah, that'll give me enough room. And then I'm going to cut it. I don't know. But the tail of the train will be back there, and then I'm going to cut it somewhere up in here, shove the rest of it back down into this siding here. And then what I'll do is I'll just leave that there. And before I take the train out, So the empties will be sitting on these two tracks here, and then I'll go down in there with this one. We're going to assume there's no 6-axle restriction. I'll go down in there with these 2 units, do my switching, bring them up, and that's not going to work. I'll figure it out. We'll do it in the next video. So let me deal with it, and I'll explain it whenever we do the next one. So I'll see you.